How are you? If you're invested in this battle, bless you for listening. If you're new here, you're listening to a woman who is a whistleblower and a right fighter. A woman who has been robbed of everything by continuous acts of fraud on the court. So last August, the true owner of a stolen property went to regain possession of that property and was immediately surrounded by what could only be described as domestic terrorists who are looking to aid and abet crime instead of fighting crime, as they're paid to do and have taken oath to do. So that begun a malicious prosecution yet again. So on August the 30th, there was a contract that was offered to the victim. The victim, the woman that you're listening to, was invited to a malicious prosecution, obviously a poisoning of herself and her character. I believe it was September the 5th, the invitation was extended. So before September the 5th, a woman who can handle her own affairs and doesn't need to be represented by a liar forwarded to the appropriate parties literally dozens of lawful reasons why she wouldn't be accepting the invitation. So instead of respecting the rule of law and the common law, what they did was they went and issued a warrant, a WAR-RANT for an arrest. That's not endorsed. But there's a clerk of court with their name here, some Freeberg, K. Freeberg. So here in Canada, what you need to know is that it's actually the clerk of court that runs the court. Now, yesterday, during a conversation with an agent from the Office of the Complaints Commission, apparently an unendorsed warrant grants the right of criminals acting as policy enforcement to hold indefinitely a man or woman that they are seeking to irreparably harm. Right. So law maxim, legality is not reality. Also looking at this release order, notice of language rights at trial. You may apply, pursuant to Section 530 of the Criminal Code, to have your trial in whichever of the two official languages of Canada. Well, what we all know is that legalese is not English. They are not speaking English in the Masonic Temple. They are speaking the language of the lunatic and locust. Legalese is the language of the lunatic and the locust. Now, locusts are creatures that destroy. That's their entire function. That's it. That's all they do. So as the trustee of property that's been stolen by an act of fraud on the court, it's up to the trustee to make sure that the contract is being followed. That's what a last will and testament would be. It's a contract. It's a man or woman speaking about what is to happen to property. You can't get around them. They're bulletproof. They're written up every day. So here is, well, it was correspondence that was sent out recently to the appropriate parties. There is one lawgiver, one judge. Natural law number 8, you shall not steal. Number 9, you shall not lie. Number 10, you shall not be in possession of property that does not belong to you. Because that's the hierarchy of law, right? The King of Kings is the one who lays down the law. And then you have law maxims. And then you have contract law. And then you have international law. And then you have case precedents. That's the hierarchy of law. So law maxim, the multitude of those who err is no excuse for error. Law maxim, a right cannot arise from a wrong. Rule of law, we know that everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in association with others, and further that no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of their property. So Mr. Innes was the public servant who arrived in March 2020 during a ban on forced evictions to remove the true owner from their security. So that's who this Mr. Innes is. Mr. Innes, you are commanded to print 3 copies of each of the Word document and certified true copy, PDF attached. You are commanded to make it priority to deliver both unsealed and sealed declarations to Mr. Howe and Ms. Dennis, offenders guilty beyond reasonable doubt of possession of stolen property. You are commanded to deliver the eviction notice to offenders trespassing the upstairs and downstairs of the property that's been stolen. It is unconstitutional, illegal, and uncivilized to keep a foreign diplomat from her property by employing immoral, atrocious acts of violence. Offences of public incitement of hatred, intimidation, fraud, mischief, uttering threats. We are satisfied that public servant Mr. Innes, an offender who left a vulnerable woman homeless and destitute March 19, 2020, will testify to accomplishing these common law commands. All agents of the state are obligated to protect life and property. This is the process. Process follows common law. Foreign diplomat to not utilize criminal organization, state paperwork for process, functional seals. Suffer their thieving, thug, tyrannical thinking, or obnoxious opinions. Truth is not an opinion. Mr. Innes, what did you do with our Ford Focus? You were informed you were robbing the owner, yet you chose to believe who? Who did you choose to believe? So that's the offense of obtaining property by false pretense, trafficking in stolen property, motor vehicle theft. Once any of the personal property was moved out of the security, off the land, to a different location, that's trafficking in stolen property. That's what they're doing. They're doing it all the time. Victoria's Peace is priority number 1 of paramount importance. We are concerned recently by phone callers seeking to argue, perjure their oath of office, refuse service and protection, compassion and empathy. We are satisfied after years of experience, public servants, guilty persons are only capable of causing irreparable harm, wired to lie, deny, delay justice, further victimizing victims. This foreign diplomat is the authority. So, every man and woman holds the right of self-determination. It's international law doctrine. You have the right to self-determine. If you're wondering why the woman that you're listening to is referring to herself as a foreign diplomat. Now, when a man or woman makes a claim, that man or woman has the responsibility to prove the claim that they are making Now, can this woman prove that claim? Yes, she can. And she wouldn't be making a claim unless she had proof. So there's a man that the Western world worships. They idolize this man. He's called Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ went in specifically and identified himself as a foreign ambassador. He also then described that after he was here, there would be men and women chosen as foreign diplomats. In Scripture, they're referred to as disciples. The blood type is a marker, the personality type is a marker, and then these men and women have to be able to prove to be hated by the world and hated by the wicked of the world. This woman can prove every claim. She's not going to waste your time. And if you're listening here, she appreciates you. And so does the one who sent her here. We all have the same mission. We all have the same training. Mr. Innes, you are commanded to arrange movers to empty wish or U-lock storage locker, a locker we know you remember. You will have that unlawfully confined property returned to its rightful place no later than March the 4th. You are commanded to send the invoice for all associated costs to high-risk offender, compulsive liar, Daniel Carroll of Fulton & Company, Kamloops, BC. Wakey, wakey, Miss Sharma and Mr. E.B. No one is above the law. Yours very truly, again, identifying the right to self-identification. We'll have to talk at some point about these bar card carrying criminals and how they believe that because they have a license, they can go around murdering, thieving, and destroying with immunity. That's not true. So what do we have here? So there was a Word document. This one will come up. So it's a trespass notice and an eviction declaration, right? To get out. So let me see here. This one comes up better. So the wet ink signature is the seal. That is the seal. If there is a trust that's been created, the trustee is the court. The trust is the court. It's the contract. The contract makes the law. You can't get around it. So Jack Daly and his spouse, the true owners of that property, that's what this is saying, right? It's noticed to the trespassers, and it's noticed to the trespassed address. Sorry if you can't see that very well. So Jack's common law companion Victoria, a foreign diplomat, holds right to immediate possession of their security, in-trust property unlawfully utilized since December 2020 for land title, mortgage fraud, and unjust enrichment by persons identified above in possession of property obtained by crime. We hereby lawfully authorize in power of right command public servants doing business as BC Sheriff or Bailiff to enter the security at said location and in the true owner's absence enforce common law on our behalf in regard to the above reference on lawfully invaded private property. We further lawfully command that on our behalf, these individuals acting as sheriff or bailiff remove all trespasses including offenders' personal chattel pursuant to mischief endangering life, possession of stolen property, unlawfully in a dwelling. There's also the Land Special Protection Act. If you're not aware of that, that does exist. And then, of course, there's the Trespass Act. Acts, obviously are not law, and it's pretty obvious that this criminal code is apparently also not seen as law in Canada. So who's got the right to crack the code? It's a code, is it? A criminal code? Really? If persons involved refuse to vacate forthwith, appropriate authorities in the criminal justice system, bound by oath to the Canadian Constitution, will arrest the offenders and file appropriate criminal charges. Bound to the Canadian Victims' Bill of Rights, public servants doing business as BC prosecution will fully cooperate with the victim, a foreign diplomat, to realize the unescapable consequences due every person guilty of unlawful conduct. Autograph of the power of attorney. That is the seal of office. So that was a notice of assignment. So for years now, well, this has now been going on for 5 years. Homeless and destitute, left penniless, because the bar card carrying criminals embezzled close to $700,000. Yeah, it's happening all the time. It's not an uncommon occurrence in Canada now that righteous people are being robbed of everything and left homeless and destitute. So, in error, this foreign diplomat has been compensating persons doing business as a self-storage facility for holding property that's obtained by crime. That can't continue to happen. Because how is it that all of these individuals, all of these persons know what's happening, and not one of them will lift a finger to do what's right or to be helpful? They just want the money. They just want the money. And a woman who's under duress, who's just been violated by having her property stolen, is in no condition to enter into a contract. That's entering into a contract under duress, so the contract is null and void. Victoria had no say in where her stolen property, her trafficked stolen property went. No. So there's constant, so now February of this year, there was a notice of assignment to the criminal acting as the mayor of the District of Saanich here, that necessaries of life are now provided to Victoria. So that was to include the storage locker fee and the housing cost. And then, of course, Victoria being a thinker, being a woman who doesn't stop researching ever, who's constantly growing and changing and coming up higher than she was yesterday, going through the Criminal Code of Canada, because what we know about the criminal acting as the mayor of the District of Saanich, it's perjured its oath to uphold the Canadian Constitution, which includes the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is to protect both life and property. And it knows that that security is stolen. It knows that there's a fraudulent mortgage on that security. It knows it can't collect commercial property tax on that property. That's a crime. It's racketeering, basically. So this is an email that went out, a correspondence that went out recently to a number of different persons, all of which have something to do with what's happening. Victoria is required to address the ongoing violations of her inalienable rights pursuant to common law maxims. It should be then contract law, international law, Canadian Constitution, which includes the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, namely Section 7, the right to life, freedom, and security, and Section 12, there is to be no cruel or unusual treatment or punishment. Victoria has informed owners and employees identifying as the self-storage company that they are in possession of personal property obtained by crime. So they're in possession of stolen property committed by fraudster Daniel Carroll. Now, I'll come back up and I'll open up some of this so we can go through it together. of Kamloops, BC, dozens of other offenders, including Mr. Innes, who did move private property. So that's the crime of mischief, obtaining property by false pretenses. That's what's going on here. And then we've got theft. Without the consent of the owners, the Honorable Jack Daly and his spouse, Victoria. Well, you're listening to a woman who spent over 2 decades with that man. This woman, the one you're listening to, is the one who gives testimony of the character of that man. That man did not leave the woman that he loved and took care of and protected for over 2 decades, homeless and destitute. He would never do that, and he didn't do that either. Read hiding an offence, section 141.1, and corruptly taking reward for recovery of goods, section 142 in this link. Read parties to an offence as owners, partners, and employees of that self-storage company are proving themselves to be guilty by continuously demanding Victoria commit evildoing against herself and her family. Foreign diplomats must never possess dirty hands or act in bad faith, and that includes against ourselves. Victoria cannot aid and abet a crime. And if you do not contest, you are deemed to have consented. So you must object. And when you know better, you are required to do better. Victoria, a woman who can prove to be a foreign diplomat, is under no obligation to be parties to an offence. Victoria was left intentionally homeless, penniless, heartbroken, fighting for her life, March 2020, as recorded. And not one of you has ever shown care, concern, empathy, or compassion. Victoria has no financial resources to meet basic necessaries of life and hasn't had for years. Victoria is under lawful obligation to protect her life, welfare, mental and emotional well-being. We are satisfied you hate Victoria. Victoria does not hate herself, nor does she cause herself or her family harm. Victoria has the right to refuse the unlawful enrichment of those who are causing her irreparable injuries. Victoria has no obligation to respond to fictions. You realize that's what's going on, right? All of these mindless monkeys. They believe falsely that they can hide behind titles like Saanich Police Department, like District of Saanich, like Supreme Court of British Columbia, like CIBC, like Fulton and Company, like BCNDP. Men and women cannot enter into contracts with fictions. Perhaps we should go what over a lawful contract is at some point. Well, because that's what's happening, right? Like, you never find out the owner's name of these private for-profit companies. And you don't find out first and last name or first and surname of the employees, because then they could be held accountable for the harm that they're causing. The individuals who own this location and the employees intimidating and criminally harassing Victoria are under obligation to identify themselves, both given in surnames, as no one is above the law. Because what's happening is, this woman right here, who has now said, right, we've got a problem here, we need to correct and address this problem immediately because it's causing harm, you continue then to intimidate, and you continue to criminally harass because you continue to contact the victim of the crime. If you will not listen to Victoria, she has no obligation to respond to constant unlawful demands she harm herself by aiding and abetting criminal code offences. The Right Honourable Foreign Diplomat. Victoria identifies to be acting in authority pursuant to the Canadian Victims' Bill of Rights and the One True King's Common Law Highest Court. So we've got a problem here. Foreign diplomat is trying to have a intelligent, constructive conversation with cursed creatures. So let's see here. What does the law state? You don't hate your neighbor secretly. If you have something against them, you get it out in the open. Otherwise, you are accomplice to their guilt. we're not exactly sure how much scripture you ingest. But if you stay silent to a crime, you are aiding and abetting. You become an accomplice. That's why it's imperative to speak up, no matter what it costs you. And it just may well cost you your life. Right. So Leviticus is the law. Like that's the living law. And living men and women follow the living law. And we are responsible to shove that living law down the throats of those who have mouths that are open graves. And that would be every politician across Canada. And what you need to know is that those MLAs and those MPs and those mayors, they're all politicians. So are these brainless beasts identifying themselves as police. They're also politicians. Yeah, there's an agenda here. It's a political agenda. So Jeremiah, your own wickedness will correct you, and your unfaithful ways will punish you. You should know and see how evil and bitter it is for you if you abandon the living law. Eternal consequences. Common law, ignorance of the law is no excuse. That's even in their own legal bullshit rules. Like they take the living law and they twist it and they turn it and they crap all over it, and then they decide that they're the law. Legal is not law. Legal has nothing to do with law. Law is for the living. Legal is for the dead. What is an assumption? So every snake that represents this satanic system, they rule on assumption and presumption. And if the man or woman doesn't rebut or correct those assumptions and presumptions, those assumptions and presumptions basically become, well, the problem. It becomes the problem. Because they never disclose. They never provide full disclosure to what they're doing. So how can they have anything to do with the living? They are the dead. So again, right, more scripture. This is, well, for months, Daniel Carroll has been terrorizing and threatening an innocent woman with violent assaults, theft, mischief, public mischief, disobeying statutes, counseling offenses, common intention, invasion of privacy. Due to her knowing the truth about what he and his criminal organization client CIBC are in the process of trying to complete to enrich themselves. Oh yeah, you gotta say something, right? In Isaiah, so death opens its jaws to receive them. Its mouth is open wide to swallow them up. They're nobles. Okay, so this is really interesting how this is worded, because you have to understand that these barf card carrying criminals actually believe they hold the title of nobility. So that's what this is referring to here. They're nobles. They believe that they rule you. Are you a slave? Do you allow the wicked to rule you? Do you allow compulsive liars who speak the language of the lunatic and the locust? You're going to allow the clowns to rule you and rule your community and rule your society? Their nobles and the rest of the monkeys will go down into, well, the blind lead the blind, and then they all fall into the ditch. Now, in what's referred to as the Old Testament, those foreign ambassadors all spoke about the pit in parables. Like, unless you're one of these peculiar people, it would be almost next to near impossible to read the Old Testament and pick out when they're actually referring to the pit, the eternal pit, the eternal fire. Jesus shows up and he's not talking in parables about it anymore. He's like right in their face with it. Oh, so you still don't understand? Really? You still don't get it? Okay, well, that's why we're here, to make sure you do understand. It will all go down together with those who have wild parties. So, International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Now, if you've gone through the Canadian Constitution, you've gone through the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, that's all written, it's the same thing. It just keeps getting regurgitated by different parties. So what's going on here? Well, here we've got, okay, so this is Section 21 of the Criminal Code of Canada. Everyone is a party to an offence who actually commits it, does or omits to do anything for the purpose of aiding any person to commit it, or abets any person in committing it. So this is why, Victoria, right from the word fucking go, as soon as they fucking said, we're coming to steal the house, she's like, yeah, no, you're not. We can't be a party to that. There's a contract in place here. You can't get around the contract. It's bulletproof. It's crystal clear. And all the legal fucking rules back it up. All the rules of commerce, all the legal maxims, fucking case law. Case law in Canada backs up that you cannot come in and steal the security or the land or any of the property that's on that land. Namely, the house car that was there that was stolen. So of course this woman went everywhere. Of course this woman rapped on every door. Of course this woman spent countless hours. And I mean, how much money, how much financial resources were used to contact all of these brainless beasts who pretend to be public servants, who completely ignored what was being said and what was being, well, it's pretty obvious what's going on. Common intention. Well, where two or more persons form an intention in common to carry out an unlawful purpose and to assist each other therein, and any one of them, in carrying out the common purpose, commits an offence, each of them who knew or ought to have known that the commission of the offence would be a probable consequence of carrying out the common purpose is a party to that offence. So now what we have here, listen to me. These fucking demons have doubled down. The reason why you're listening to this woman right now is because these fucking dogs, these demoniacs have doubled down. This afternoon around 2 o'clock, there was witches at the door committing common intention, claiming there's a warrant for arrest. The fuck there is. The fuck there is. Because now what we've got here is we've got this female, surname Barrett, that's now involved in a common intention. You've got Laura Wheeler, a female impersonating, it's impersonating the public. Yeah, it's impersonating something that doesn't even exist, which is BC Prosecution Services. That's a fiction. So Victoria said, no, thank you very much for the offer to contract. Your offer to contract is denied. We do not require your services. You are committing crime. We won't be aiding and abetting your fucking crimes. We don't accept fucking invitations to the house of the dead. We don't accept invitations to be a part of your satanic ritual abuse. So, of course, in November of last year, what did they do? Well, fuck, they're back with the SWAT team. And then, right, on November 21st, you've got another female, which is nothing more than an administrative clerk. Those are not judges. How dare you identify yourself as the honorable judge? How dare you? You are guilty of impersonation, identity theft. You, female, I don't even know how to pronounce your name. Don't even know how to pronounce your name, but you were nasty. You were nasty. As was Miss Barrett there. Nasty. Trying to put an innocent woman on probation. Probation is punishment for guilt. So what is all this bullshit about you are presumed innocent until proven guilty? That's a lie, an out-and-out lie. And you are all fucking liars. So then you have this other female impersonating a judge on the 21st who is fucking, they just keep going. They just keep doing the same fucking thing. 3 charges? Fuck you, there is. Criminal harassment? This honorable woman has never once committed the offense of criminal harassment. Ever. Ever. Willfully resisting? Or obstructing? Oh, yeah, no. No, an innocent woman about to be robbed of her last item of security has every right to resist, every right to obstruct. She knew you had premeditated to be lying in wait August the 29th so you could commit hate crimes. She knew you'd be there. She knew it. That's why she let you know she was going to be there. Yeah, we got you on live. A whole half an hour of probably the hour that you were literally, completely fucking embarrassing yourselves. Oh, and now here we go. We've got, yeah, did commit an offensive breach of release. No, that's no thanks. No thank you. What kind of bullshit titles have you tried to put on this woman? What, offender? No thanks, we don't accept that title. Defendant, we don't accept that title. The accused? The offender? We don't accept those roles. We don't accept those titles. No thanks. We're not a thing. We're not an entity. We are not a ward of the court. We are not your fucking property. We are not your fucking slave. We are not your fucking prisoner. No. All of your presumptions and all of your assumptions that you can fucking literally destroy innocent men and women's lives are rebutted. No. Person counseling offense. So here you've got 2 females, 2 benchers, impersonating judges. Neither of them are judges. They're nothing more than administrative clerks. Canada doesn't have any common law courts. It's an administrative agency. That's what it is. It's an administrative agency. It's an administrative process. Now you've got 2 of them parties to counseling offense. So you're threatening this woman that if she doesn't do what you tell her to do, you're going to issue a WAR-RANT? You're inciting war. That's a war crime. That's what the 2 of you involved yourselves in. And you know that when you're in there, you need to be represented because you are dead. You're dead. So you've got some barf card carrying criminal, right, committing necromancy, committing identity theft. That's why you're to be seen and never heard. They do not want to hear you. They don't want to hear a word that you have to say. It gets in the way of their satanic ritual. You actually speaking the truth in there. They fucking lose their monkey minds. I've seen it myself. They've done it to me. They've done it to us. Sorry, excuse me. Very particular about the words that have to be utilized. And then again, so they're fucking doubling down. Let's think about this carefully. They are conspiring to once again kidnap, unlawfully confine. It's hostage taking. They're all armed. Because they're losing and they're cowards. They're losing and they're cowards, and it doesn't matter how fucking long this takes or what kind of fucking damage that they do to the woman that you're listening to. I guess they don't know who we are. I guess they don't know who we are, eh? Huh. Definition of counsel, right? Procure, solicit, or incite. Oh, okay. Really? Good. Fucking great. Beg pardon for becoming heated. You're listening to a woman who is not one of the lukewarm. It is, once the witness begins to testify, she literally becomes lit ablaze, like lit on fire. And so that's where the pain reliever comes in, which is the words that she uses that can be abrasive and it may seem offensive, but that's not her intention. She begs pardon if you are offended by some of the wording that she has to utilize to relieve some of the pain that she's in. She doesn't do drugs and she doesn't drink. So, and this has been going on for decades. Decades. Yeah. War is exhausting. Criminal negligence. All legal fictions run by persons responsible for their actions and decisions. Well, because they hide, right? They hide behind CIBC. They hide behind Fulton and Company. They hide behind BC Supreme Court. They hide behind, there was real estate agencies and their criminal agents involved in all of this. They all got rich. Criminal negligence. So everyone is criminally negligent who, in doing anything or admitting or omitting to do anything that is its duty to do, shows wanton or reckless disregard for the lives or safety of others. Hello? Hello? Definition of duty. It's a duty imposed by law. Well, common law duty is to protect both life and property. Criminal harassment. It's been going on for years. Uttering threats. Going on for years. Well, they were back at the door this afternoon around 2 o'clock to do just that. Assault. They're premeditating another assault. Do you understand? Can you understand that consent is everything? Consent, in fact, is what makes all law. Consent makes the law. A contract is a law between the parties, which can acquire force only by consent. Every time you are approached by a federal, provincial, or municipal public servant, they are offering you a contract. Do you consent or do you not consent? This afternoon, that was an offer to contract. This woman remained silent until after the high-risk offenders, the sociopaths, were out of earshot. So assault, what's that about? Without the consent. Without the consent. You get that? They tell you right here that they need your consent. They need your consent. They have to have it. That's why this fucking ridiculous charge, absolutely fucking frivolous, vexatious, without merit, accusation that this righteous woman did willfully resist or obstruct. Fuck no, you do not have our consent to steal the only thing we have left. That's exactly what you're going to be doing. And if you fucking do that, do you have any idea the amount of criminal code offenses you have just willfully committed? Oh no, we don't have to follow the law. We're above the law. We're sovereign citizens. We're sovereign fucking citizens. That's who they identify as. Sovereign citizens are vexatious litigants and anti-government terrorists. There is one government, one lawgiver, one judge, one set of non-negotiable, it's life and life more abundantly. You do to others as you would have them do to you. That's the government. The whole duty of man is to fear the King of Kings and to do what he tells you to do. That is the government. Do you understand? Of course you do. That's why you're listening here. That's why you're listening. There's no coincidence why you're listening. We appreciate your time. That's the most precious gift you could give us, is your ear, your time. And that you're invested in this war. Because what we don't want is for it to happen to you. That's why we're saying something. That's why we're standing up. That's why we're speaking up. That's why we're holding the line. That's why we're still in the ring. Oh, yet it gets better. Attempts or threatens by any act or gesture to apply force to another. Oh. Or cause the man or woman to believe on reasonable grounds that they have the present ability to effect their purpose. Okay, so unfortunately this afternoon I could not engage a recording device quickly enough to catch what went on. But Nick Murray, an employee of the District of Saanich, is premeditating to assault an innocent woman. They hate this woman. They want to end this woman's life, and they want to end this woman's enjoyment of life. That's their goal. They sit around and talk about this all the time, premeditating to carry out criminal actions, to cause irreparable harm. Yeah. Oh, yes. Assault. Well, that's what... Torture. Well, that's what happened this afternoon again. And now, because... And listen to me. Only a man or woman can make a claim against another man or woman. These... well... They're not people, right? They're humans, so they're monsters. These monsters who are employees of the District of Saanich have lied to some individuals impersonating BC prosecution. It's hearsay. Like, it's hearsay. There is no hearsay in a legitimate courtroom. None. Because in order for Victoria to have been arrested on the 29th of August, she would have had to have been seen, witnessed committing crime. Committing the crime of criminal harassment. Committing the crime of willfully resisting and obstructing. That never took place. And the woman speaking to you would be the only woman who would know. But of course, she did catch the first half an hour on an Instagram Live. Torture means any act or omission by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mental. So this is really important to understand. I mean, this is psychological. This is high-level psychological witchcraft. That's what's going on here. They're witches. That's what a liar is. A witch is a liar is a witch. That you can't get around it. That's what it is. Intimidating or coercing. For any reason based on discrimination of any kind. Okay, so retaliation is discrimination, and that's exactly what they have written down there. Why are there a coven of witches lying in wait on August the 29th to surround an innocent woman, to falsely accuse her of criminal harassment, which she has never done, and then when she can't do what they're telling her to do, because she's well aware of what they're going to do, if she does do what they're telling her to do, why then are they lying about her character, that she's willfully resisted? And by the way, those animals, those, you can't even call them animals, they're creatures, right? They're fucking like chimeras. They're impersonating peace officers. A legitimate peace officer is not armed, and it's not armed, and it doesn't have a fucking outfit on. No. Have you fucking seen those outfits that they wear? You have to be joking. You have to be, like, what? What are you wearing? You're military force. You're outfitted for war. You're war criminals. You're not peace officers, so how dare you impersonate peace officers? Lying fucking scum. Fucking scum of the earth. Theft, well, here we go. Theft, well, they got the match to 323, didn't they? That's exactly why they were there. They had premeditated to be there to commit the act of theft. The crime, it's a crime of theft. Deprive? Temporary or absolutely? Well, it's absolutely deprived because they fucking completely demolished her. The owner. Go for it. Just go for it. Just fucking knock yourselves out. So this is the contract that they blacked out on purpose. They concealed, fraudulent concealment, when they put the first petition in to steal the security and the land. This is how they filed the contract that they can't get around. So they're concealing the truth, that they have no standing. They have no standing at all. Isn't that interesting? So why are you hiding the truth? Is that because you're committing a crime and you figure what this woman that you're stealing from is not going to stand up? So the question becomes, who provided these witches with a copy? Because what we all need to know is Victoria did not provide a copy to the witches in Kamloops, Daniel, Carol, and Gray Mac. This is a private family matter. What belongs to a man belongs to the woman he loves, and what belongs to the woman he loves belongs to the man. The two become one. And if we go through all the legal rules say the same thing. Oh, well, here it is, right? Here it is. It's the codicil. You can't get around it. It's a contract. What belongs to Jack belongs to Victoria. What belongs to Victoria belongs to Jack. Yeah. My trustee may at any time. At any time. This is a private contract. The public is not involved in this contract, and that includes the brainless beast benchers and their barf card carrying creature cohorts who want to try to convince you that you need to file a probate. You don't. No, you see, they're busybodies, eh? That's how they fucking generate revenue. By double fisting. Yeah, oh, they're all doing it. They're all double fisting. All the bankers are doing it. All the politicians are doing it. All the mayors are doing it. All the MLAs are doing it. Double fisting. Well, how many times do you pay for the same thing? And where does all those resources go? Does fall into the black fucking hole or what? Are you being taxed into an early grave? Of course you are. Of course you are. Are you doing okay? You feeling okay? Are you noticing what's going on around you? Because it's not good. And if it's not good, it's evil. There's only two sides of the coin. The good side or the evil side. There is no in between. So at any time, she can compromise, settle, or waive any claim, any single claim. Oh, so Daniel Carroll has a claim? Do you, Daniel? Really? Well, Victoria's well aware of how banking works, and she knows your claim is fraudulent. So did she tell you to stop? She did. Continuously, she told you to stop, and now you've got all these other witches who are riding brooms involved in your ugliness. Good times. False pretenses, that's what they're doing. Well, false pretenses. A false pretense is a representation of a matter of fact. Well, okay, so facts and the truth have nothing to do with each other. The facts can do and will change. The truth is not going to change. Either present or past, made by words or otherwise, that is known by the person who makes it to be false. And that is made with a fraudulent intent to induce the person to whom it is made to act on it. So that's what these charges are about. That's what these completely fucking ridiculous, inflammatory fucking charges are about. It's a false pretense. So Victoria, who is a foreign diplomat and not subject to any kind of administration of herself or her matters, her personal matters, her private, she doesn't have to accept invitations. Oh, really? You're going to have another meeting, are you? No, no thanks. Victoria's not a ward of the court. Victoria's not your property. She will not be showing up ever. So there's no fucking way you are gonna... There's no way you're working that warrant. There's no way. You fucked up right from the beginning. You fucked up right from fucking word go, because on August the 29th, you would have had to have had a warrant to arrest this foreign diplomat because you didn't see her committing a crime, and you would have had to have had a warrant to steal her private property. You had to have a warrant. You have to. That's fucking procedure. Oh, you don't need to follow it? Why is that? Victoria is not going to allow another fucking witch to be involved in this matter, in any of these matters. Right? Because twice when Victoria was fucking kidnapped and unlawfully confined, she is subjected to 3 absolute fucking idiots. August the 30th, the defense counsel was a fucking dolt, like an absolute fucking imbecile. Laura Wheeler, you're just a compulsive liar. Laura Wheeler, did you actually have any time to do your due diligence? Had you spoken to Victoria? Did you find out whether the liar, the pathological liar, sociopath, acting as Saanich Police Department, had told you the truth about what you said? And how about these benchers, administrative clerks impersonating judges? Do any of you have any first-hand knowledge of what's going on here? Well, the answer is fucking no. So you have absolutely fucking no standing. You have absolutely no fucking jurisdiction. You don't have subject matter jurisdiction at all. Or any other kind of jurisdiction you may believe you might have. You don't. Fraud. Well, here we go. Yeah, you're defrauding this woman of her precious time. Willfully causing an event to occur. Well, they're doing it again. There was another invitation, right? December the 12th. An invitation was extended again to this woman. No, thank you. No, not accepting your invitation. We will not be attending. We do not have to attend. We are not going to commit the offence written in Section 21 of the Criminal Code of Canada. We are not required to, nor will we be forced into committing crimes against ourselves. We won't be aiding and abetting your fucking hate crimes. Oh, but you want to keep doubling down. Well, fucking let's go. Let's fucking go. You don't hear us, we don't hear you. You don't fucking hear the living, we don't hear you, the walking fucking dead. We don't hear you. Mischief. Well, here we go. Victoria's time is her property. Victoria's time is her property. And you are destroying and damaging Victoria's property. You're rendering Victoria's time useless and ineffective. How fucking dare you? Attempts and accessories. Well, here we go. So I had this woman that you're listening to had to be quiet for a little while because she needs to give the fucking monkeys, the mindless malicious monkeys enough time to bite it off, chew it up, and swallow it. Sorry about that. Thanks for being here, by the way. Did we mention that? Did we mention that we appreciate you being here? We appreciate that if you're invested in this. Because we're worried. We're worried about the level of evil and where it's going. Oh, this one's huge. Oh, no. Beg pardon. Bear with us. Because it's happening all the time, right? You got about twice a week a true homeowner losing their homes. got everything to do with money laundering. The bankers are involved in all the money laundering. All the barf card carrying criminals are all involved in the money laundering. Your premier, your prime minister, your mayors, your real estate maggots, the benchers, the criminals impersonating peace officers, they're all involved in it. All of them are. So this is just like common knowledge. These are journalist reports reporting on the out-of-control scale of money laundering, and they're using the casino and the real estate industry to do this. So that's why, being a freelance journalist, being a reporter, have to report on what we're witnessing. This is why we write documents like this. Yeah. I mean, all of these documents are based on fraud. So remember what we spoke about before, about the hierarchy of law? Okay, at the bottom of that ring would be, well, legal cases. So if a legal case has something to do with what's happening to you and your family, that becomes part of the remedy. It becomes part of, why you have the right to fight for your property. So because the true owner of that land it did not grant sale, did not consent to the sale, both mortgages are invalid, and the owner's title has to be returned to the original state, which is why the woman that you're listening to has pointed that out repeatedly and has done for years, and will continue to do so, because we have a problem here. So again, the woman that you're listening to, she is required to provide proof when she makes a claim. The proof of claim resides with the claimant, right? Again, we're going to refer to ourselves very often as things, like a claimant or a respondent or a defendant or a prisoner or a ward of the court. But just to help explain, so these employees of CIBC, they're absolutely criminals, like absolutely. And proof right here. One of the managers, there you go. I mean, what else do you need to see? So anybody with a half a brain in their head, and that half a brain is even functioning partway properly, they would read this first paragraph and go, what the fuck are you talking about? None of that makes any sense at all. None of it makes any sense at all. We are the solicitors for CIBC. Well, who are we? Your loan? Well, we don't have a loan. Well, so what are you talking about? And how can a loan be due, like now, and payable, when you haven't proven your claim? Automatic withdrawals have been canceled. Okay, so if automatic withdrawals are coming out of an account, who authorized those automatic withdrawals to be canceled? Because it would only be the woman that you're listening to who would have that authority to do that. And why would she do that? Why would she do something so fucking stupid? So it's essential that you call us before making any payment. Well, there's no payment to make because we don't have a loan with you. You're calling a loan a mortgage. Is that right? Well, we went through the documents and it was not listed as a mortgage, so we have no idea what you're talking about. But you're going to roll with this, are you? And you're going to have a criminal who at that time was acting as BC Attorney General aid and abet you, and a male acting as the chief of Victoria Police Department aid and abet you, and the Chief Justice of BC ate and abet you because they were all contacted about what you were up to. So you've got common intention. Yeah. Oh, yes. Certificate of, okay, so what you need to know is that foreclosures, it's just an administrative process. Do you hear us? It's an administrative process. It's paperwork when they're foreclosing, and that's unconstitutional. You need to have a trial by jury. And the bank solicitors have to prove that the bank actually loaned you the money. And they can never do that because they don't loan you any money. So here you've got November the 27th of 2018. You have Gray Mack and Daniel Carroll committing application and title fraud. That's exactly what they did, and they knew they were doing it. So money laundering under the criminal code. Possession and money laundering offenses. That's what they're up to. The principal money laundering offense is created by the Proceeds of Crime Act. So that's an act that they've completely, well, they're just ignoring it. They're concealing the offense. They've arranged the offense. The acquisition, use, or possession of well, hey. The woman you're listening to never once consented to it. Never once. Not ever. And she never will. Well, so estate trustee misconduct. Well, so what they've done is they've committed identity theft by identifying themselves as the trustee of Jack's property. Yeah, it's a breach of trust. It's a false pretense. They're committing forgery and fraud. That's what they did. Racketeer influencing and corrupt organizations. So this is what they're up to. I better move a little quicker here. That's what they're doing. And they're completely invading privacy. Completely invading privacy. So here's November the 17th, 2019. And so let's look here who got this. Daniel Carroll got it. David Eby, who was acting as the BC Attorney General, also received it. The Human Rights Commission persons who pretend to be that joke. Bradley Walker, who knew the house was being stolen. They were all informed you're committing crime. You know what you're doing. That's why you need to make sure that every seller and buyer, that the property's not up for sale. But you just keep trespassing. You keep trespassing on Victoria and Jack's land. You keep trespassing inside the security. See what I'm saying? Like, it's not like I mean, this is, yeah, look, they have faces. Sure they do. The Law Society, they were informed. They didn't care. They don't care. They just simply don't care. So this is case law, right? So a mortgagee does not acquire any estate or interest in the lands on registration of their mortgages when they have been granted, where they have been granted by a person who had no valid interest in the lands, and such mortgages are void. So both the mortgages, if the first two and the second two, are void. And this woman that you're listening to doesn't need to go and speak to another brainless beast bencher about what we all know to be true. The trustee is the power. The trustee has the authority to do what needs to be done. And this woman doesn't need to go ask for permission from any other fucking brainless beast bencher. Because those brainless beast benchers are the reason why all of this took place. Because this woman went into the whorehouse repeatedly. and try to have constructive conversations with the dead. And the dead hate the living, which is why you should have just heard, you should have fucking been there. You should have heard. You should have heard it. Fraud unravels everything. So if fraud unravels everything, and that first letter that we just went through, sent in September of 2018, was entirely based on fraud. It was all filled with lies, that first paragraph. How is this woman still homeless and destitute? How is this woman again this afternoon terrorized, terrified, threatened? Again. Yeah, what are they? It's all theater. It's all theater, and they want to label living men and women with their titles. Prisoner, ward of the court, you're an infant, you can't handle your own affairs, you're dead. Yeah. Subject matter jurisdiction. How are you gaining jurisdiction at all? Any kind of jurisdiction. You wouldn't have it. You never did have it. Well, they all have faces, right? They all have faces. These are some of the faces that Victoria faced when she went in there and fought for her life. And they're all of one mind. All of them. And every time Victoria reaches out to report crime, she is violently, viciously attacked. It's just disgusting. So, this afternoon, we can all see the number there. Take a good look at that number. Today, at 3:40, the woman that you're listening to corresponded with one of the male monsters who assaulted her this afternoon. Answer the questions. Are you aware in the description box of attached upload the crimes you are guilty of aiding and abetting and premeditating are listed? Are you aware the rule of law requires you to have the written consent of the woman you obviously hate and are premeditating to harm? Are you aware you have no authority? Are you aware you cannot prove personal or subject matter jurisdiction? There you go. They have to have both. And they assume and presume that they have both unless challenged. Are you aware you are operating on assumption and presumption, all of which are rebutted? Are you aware you are a high-risk offender? Are you aware you are a sociopath? Are you aware Peace Officer Victoria has no obligation to open the door and speak to armed and dangerous outfitted criminals identifying as terrorists organization Sanish Police? Are you capable of understanding the law maxims in the description box of the expert witness who testifies against you? Are you aware you are not above the law? Are you aware... Sorry, this is a typo. And this unglues the woman who wrote this because she likes everything to be a certain way. Are you aware, if asked, you must prove a true certified copy of your oath of office and your bond? They're insured. If they cause... See, this is why they don't care who they harm. Because allegedly, they are not personally responsible for the harm that they cause, so they don't care. It's like no-fault insurance. Why the fuck would you care who you harm in your deadly weapon? You're not held accountable. They're insured. That's what a bond is. Are you bonded? You are bonded, are you not? Are you aware you are under investigation? Answer the questions before you end your day shift. You are required to answer in writing for and on the record. Well, as we can see, there was no answer. That's dishonor. When a woman that you hate and that you assaulted asks you questions because you were at the door claiming that you wanted to talk to her, you need to answer the questions. Oh, heaven help us. Okay. So here's what we're talking about here. So, law maxim. No one is bound to obey an order which is invalid. Justice must be rooted in the law, not in the authority of an unqualified individual. It is a rule of law that error not resisted is approved. You understand that? An error not resisted is approved. No one is bound to expose themselves to danger. The act of law does no one wrong. So then there's a couple of Instagram lives when they assaulted this innocent woman. So I don't know if you've ever So sometimes this is what happens on my phone. Parties to an offense. Well, that's what's going on here. Parties to an offense. Everyone who is party to an offense, who actually commits it, does or omits to do anything for the purpose of aiding any person to commit it, abets any person in committing it. Okay, so if they did actually write up a warrant on December the 12th, I didn't go. Okay, I didn't go December. This woman did not visit the satanic ritual on December the 12th. And so the assistant that was appointed put it off for another week. And on the 18th of December, once again, after supplying lawful reasons why this woman would not partake in their crimes, in their malicious prosecution, in their fraud on the court, because she can't, because she'll become a party to an offense. So if they actually went and wrote up that fucking warrant, which then again I said something, this woman said something after they did that they had issued a warrant. And she said, no, you didn't. No, you can't. You can't do that. We will not allow it. This is over. We are the principal in this matter. And you will dismiss. No, not even that. You're going to dissolve. You're going to dissolve this like it never even happened. You're going to dissolve all of those lies that you're telling about this innocent woman here that you're trying to incite hatred against. So when we look at all, so this is exactly what all of these are. That all of these links link to a crime that they're committing. They're trying to assault a peace officer. They're attempting to assault a peace officer. The woman you're listening to identifies rightly as a peace officer. Peace officers aren't fucking outfitted, and they don't fucking have arms. They don't bear arms. They're not war criminals. Well, it is upsetting that this is not coming through right now. So we can go through this together. But I mean, just look at how many offenses, and that wasn't all of them. Well, intimidation, that was another one. Oh yeah, they just keep going. They will not stop. If you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Counseling, that was another one. Let's take a look at this. So that's what they're doing, where the offense is committed. So the bencher, whoever was acting as the prosecutor, and the assistant who was assigned to assist the woman that you're listening to, they're all guilty of counseling an offense. That would be 3 of them. And all of them carry a barf card. All of them have a license to be a murderer, a thief, and a destroyer. All 3 of them are trained in the language of the lunatic and the locust. And yet on their paperwork here, they claim that you can have your shit show in whichever of the 2 official languages of Canada. So if you barf card carrying cuckoo criminals are going to make a claim that the accused can have the Masonic ritual in English, then you better be speaking English. Or you have to provide an interpreter at the cost of the criminal organization doing business as the province of British Columbia. Because we didn't hear any English. On August the 30th, we heard no English. On November the 21st, we also heard no English. No, we didn't. So what are you talking about? And how dare you intimidate and threaten a woman, an innocent woman in shackles? Oh, you'd like to contract with us? No, thank you. Your offer to contract is denied. So let's see how this works here, right? Because you need 5 elements to prove crime. You need 5 of them. There's 5 elements to prove a crime. You need the guilty mind, mens rea, the guilty act, actus reus. You need concurrence. You need both at the same time. They have to have a guilty mind, and they have to have committed the guilty act. Whatever they did has to cause harm. And then their offense caused harm. It resulted in harm. Yes, that's what's happening here. Elements of a contract. Competent parties. To be of sound mind and capable. Okay, well, we have never heard a barf card carrier be of sound mind or capable. Subject matter. Well, the living don't enter into contracts with what's dead. Here on the release order it says Canada. What is that? That's a fiction. Province of British Columbia, what is that? That's a fiction. What else do we have here? Police file number. Oh, hold on here. Primary agency, Sandwich Police Department. Again, a fiction. Living men and women are not doing business with fictions. Men and women are not going to be conducting our business with persons guilty of impersonation and misrepresentation, identity theft. So they're trying to get an innocent woman involved in their shit. That's just not going to happen. Accessory after the fact. And accessory after the fact to an offense is one who, knowing that a person has been a party to the offense, receives, comforts, or assists that person for the purpose of enabling that person to escape. Okay, well, who's escaping justice here? The persons who are in adverse possession of Jack and Victoria's stolen property. And those are all the employees of the District of Saanich. Those are the employees of the BC prosecution. Those are the employees of the BC NDP. Those are the employees acting as the court. They're all accessories after the fact. For some reason, they figure they're fucking lies, and their lying is reality, and it just is not. It just isn't. That's what they're doing. Look at this kid. Who writes this shit? Anyone who is charged with being an accessory after the fact to any offense, may be indicted whether or not the principal or any other party to the offense has been indicted or convicted, or is not amenable to justice. So the principal would be like the highest, like the head hog of the swineherd. Like who's going to call in the swine snatchers? Because this is where we need to go here. Like, who's in charge of the fucking zoo? Because these fucking zoo animals have escaped. Like, this is just not okay. And you know it's not okay. Anybody with half a fucking brain in their head knows that none of this is okay. Attempts. So what happened this afternoon? Open the door. We want to talk to you. There's a warrant for your arrest. Yeah, of course there is. Oh, fuck, oh, why wouldn't there be? Attempts. Everyone who having an intent to commit an offense does or omits to do anything for the purpose of carrying out the intention is guilty of an attempt to commit the offense, whether or not it was possible under the circumstances to commit the offense. Question of law. Again, who writes this fucking garbage? It's just okay, so are you noticing that at no time they mention men or women? Everyone. Okay, well, that's interesting. So a person is a thing. A person is an entity. A person has no eyes. A person has no ears. A person has no brain. A person can't function. That's what they're talking about. The dead govern the dead. This is why we men and women, the living ones, are a problem here. We're a problem here because we're the ones who understand. We're the ones who possess the knowledge and wisdom. That's why we're hated. That's why we're gang-stalked and targeted and fucking robbed of everything. Left for dead. We're the problem. The question of law. Oh, fuck, here's the other problem. Why would any woman or man in their right mind allow themselves to be poisoned by the opinion of a brainless beast bencher? Or any other of these fucking sewer rats who act as agents for these agencies, like these fucking ridiculous tribunals. The law is crystal clear. Right? The King of Kings already laid it down. The punishment for the crime. Including the punishment for theft. If you're caught thieving, you have to give back what you stole plus 20%. Of the value of what you stole. Like, it's not complicated at all. Okay, let us read this, because this is just the question whether an act or omission by a person who has an intent to commit an offense is or is not mere preparation to commit the offense and to remote to constitute an attempt to commit the offense is a question of law. Fuck, it just, oh my face, come on, Raz, it doesn't come up, for fuck's sake. Uttering threats, yeah, well, that's all happened, it all went down. Sorry if these come up doubled, I'm trying to, like, assaulting a piece of, yeah, well, let's see if this one will come up. Well, that's what they're up to. It's in Public Incitement of Hatred. It was common nuisance this afternoon, by the way. them even walking too. Oh, I need to see this. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so these warrants for arrest are to incite hatred against an innocent woman, a foreign diplomat. And foreign diplomats aren't subject. Like, they have immunity. Like, you can't wrap them into your fucking mindless fucking circus monkey bullshit. Like, we hate clowns and we hate the circus. Summons to occupier. The owner and the author of the matter seized and alleged to be hate propaganda may appear and be represented in the proceedings in order to oppose the making of an order for the forfeiture of the matter. Oh, you see, you need to be... Do you need to be represented? Do you need to be represented? Because you identify as dead? You identify as not having control of your own affairs? You can't handle your own affairs? Because that's hate propaganda, that warrant that was issued on the 18th and 19th of December. That's exactly what that is. That's right. Order of forfeiture. If the court is set, again, what is this? The court? What is that? That's a fiction. It's a fiction. Is satisfied that the publication referred to in subsection 1 is hate propaganda, it shall make an order declaring the matter forfeited to Her Majesty in right of the province in which the proceedings take place for disposal. As the Attorney General made... Oh, okay. So as the principal in this matter, because we are dealing with agents, so we administer the agents, the charges, all fraudulent are disposed, and that warrant is disposed. It's fucking garbage. It has to be disposed. Dissolved, man. Like in a fucking vat of acid. We're so fucking sick and tired of you wicked witches. We're so sick and tired of you Walking Dead, warped sovereign citizens with your fucking titles of nobility, which are absolutely misrepresentation, impersonation. Fucking look at this garbage. Have you talked? Look at this. Consent. No proceeding under this section shall be instituted without the consent of the Attorney General. Well, let's see here. The Attorney General is a fiction. So how can a fiction consent to anything? And no man or woman requires the consent of a coven of criminals, of clowns. Seriously. We have just dealt with a number of these, well, you know their names if you're in British Columbia. Under blah, 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 a peace officer may do a one-party consent intercept, a private communication without judicial authorization. This is sometimes referred to as a safety pack. The relevant provision states, interception to prevent bodily harm. An agent of the state may intercept by means of any electromagnetic, acoustic, mechanical, or other device, a private communication if either the originator of the private communication or the person intended by the originator to receive it has consented to the interception. The agent of the state believes on reasonable grounds that there is a risk of bodily harm to the person who consented to the interception, and the purpose of the interception is to prevent the bodily harm. This requires that a participant is acting as an agent of the state. A consent of one or more of the parties to the interception, the agent reasonably believes there is a risk of bodily harm to the consenting party. The purpose of the interception is to prevent bodily harm. Look at this, omitted 1, 2, and 3. What are you doing? So this garbage that you write, you can just erase it, you can just omit it, you can just have it rescinded. What a joke. First in time has more power. That's why the common law is the only law. Again, right, a participant, that's a thing. Has no eyes, has no ears, has no mouth. An agent of the state. Well, the state is a fiction, and so are all their agents. A consent? The agent. Well, who the fuck would consent to bodily harm? Interception to prevent bodily harm. Well, that's exactly why we're talking about this. You know, because the woman, who quite obviously is going to be harmed again, needs to intercept to stop the bodily harm. Who else's job is it? Like, only the dead need a representative. I'm sure you saw, right? You saw, and you went in and you saw what happened there. If you're still listening, thank you. So diplomatic immunity, what is that about? Immunities and privileges. Inviolability of premises, immunity from local jurisdiction, immunity from giving witness, immunity from taxes and custom duties, immunity from inspection of personal baggage, freedom of communication, freedom of movement, right to worship, immunity from local and military applications. The word diplomat has been derived from a French term, which means someone whose duty it is to represent their place of origin in the receiving country and to further negotiate on behalf of their place of origin. Diplomatic immunity is a rule of international law that shields diplomatic men and women of the sending kingdom from the jurisdiction of the foreign state where they perform their functions. Now, who described that better than Jesus? He knew he didn't pay tax. He knew they had no authority. He knew he was a foreigner. He talked about others being chosen after he was here, and how they would be treated, how they would be hated, how they'd be gang-stalked and targeted. So how is it that they've managed to get reciprocity theory Right? They're to be treated with respect and care and concern. Immunity from local jurisdiction and from administrative procedures. Well, that's what the court is. It's an administrative process. It's not legitimate. That's exactly, they've got all kinds of writings about it. See, because in the first 5 books, it's Moses who says something about Jesus before he gets here. See, God's angel to prepare the way. See, I am sending an angel, which just means a messenger. That's what it means. Ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared. Right? Jesus always talks about the kingdom of heaven. That's what he's here explaining. Pay attention and listen. You don't rebel, because you're not going to be forgiven if you do. Because my name are in these men and women. If you listen carefully to do everything that they tell you to do, I will be an enemy to your enemies and will oppose those who oppose you. So that's why we're here. That's what we're doing here. We're the testing rod. How we are treated by those who come into contact with us determines who they are and where they end up. Right, so one of the 7 spirits is counsel, the spirit of counsel. So this is what we were talking about. So they don't have any jurisdiction. They can't get it. Personal or subject matter, they can't ever have jurisdiction. And yet look at them go again. Fucking, the demons are doubling down. Right? Because they're fucking losing and they know it. There is no higher authority than the authority of a man. And when that man gives property to the woman he loves, well, there's nothing to argue about. We don't argue. Arguing is dishonor. Arguing is because somebody's lying. Somebody's telling a lie, and now you want to. We don't talk like that. We don't communicate that way. That's what Jesus was explaining. Well, we don't pay tax. From whom do the kings of the earth collect duty and taxes? From their own sons or from others? From others, Peter answered. Then the sons are exempt. Can you imagine knowing that when it wasn't the age of information when Jesus was here? How did he know he was a foreigner? How did he know he was a foreign ambassador? How would he know all that? He didn't even have access to scriptures. Because when you're of the truth, you know the truth, and that's just who you are. So when we make a claim, it's on us to... Okay, so do diplomats have immunity in Canada? Under Canada's Foreign Missions and International Organizations Act, men and women accredited as diplomatic agents are granted full diplomatic immunity from arrest, detention, and the legal process. So how is it that there's a rant of war? Again, today, a rant of war. Diplomatic men and women will have access to free housing, travel, networking. It's the privilege of presenting one's own place of origin everywhere. Is that not what Jesus said? He's like, you're going to go and preach and teach in every corner. I want you to go and make disciples, diplomats, of everyone you come into contact with. You're going to teach them life and life more abundantly. That's what the man said. Well, we speak a different language, so we're versed in foreign relations. Like, we see what's going on everywhere it's going on, and they're like, well, you can't do that. You don't want to do that. What are the rules of diplomats? So men and women, I guess diplomatic agents, are invulnerable. Like, you're not liable to any form of arrest or detention. The receiving state, so this woman that you're listening to has been sent into Canada in the summer of '73, shall treat these men and women with due respect and shall take all appropriate steps to prevent any attack on their person, freedom, and dignity. Oh, we have fucking failed, have we not? We have failed completely. Well, hey, listen, we don't stop. Like, we play the long game. We don't kill ourselves. We don't fold like a fucking cheap Chinese motorcycle. This is not who we are as men and women. We understand we're hated, and we understand why. But it does get a bit tiring. And so, yes, there was a conversation an hour long last week with an investigator or an intake agent from the Police Complaints Commission, trying to even explain what has been going on and why it's happening. And so obviously there's going to have to be some face-to-face meetings here. And they're going to have to fucking bend that knee. You have to fucking bend that knee. Like, there's no way you're going to keep continuing to get away with this. The truth is not going to change. I mean, who else is noticing this is dialing right out of control now? Like, the chaos is like at an all-time high, where there's just individuals going around causing havoc for others. Like, what is going on here? This is crazy. Corruption and fraud is out of control across Canada, and who is standing up and saying, stop it? You need to stop it, and you need to stop it now.